Hi, I'm Russ, and I'm going to talk about Instant Pot cooking in this session here. Now, Instant Pots, first off, there's a lot of buttons on them, and don't be scared because there's basically a pressure cook button, the ones you want to worry about. And what we're going to use is we're going to use the saute button, and we're going to use the timer on these. Everything else, as far as some of these others, are for you to play with once you get comfortable using the basics of the Instant Pot. The nice thing about an Instant Pot is I've got basically just one pan that I'm basically going to use, which makes it a whole lot easier to clean. Now, it doesn't make an instant amount of food. What it does do is it allows you to cook in a consistent amount of time with a little bit of liquid and also very economical to use. So you can, in this instance, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using ground turkey, and we're going to be putting in some spices. I'm going to basically brown the turkey, and then I'm going to add in the spices and the liquid, and then I'm going to seal it up and then finish it off with some of the fixings at the end. All told, it'll take about 30 minutes to do, but remember that some of the prep work was going to take in advance, so I've got a lot of things already done ahead of time. So when you plan for a meal like this, it might take you an hour to prepare and cook it, but what you will have is a very consistent, very delicious meal. What we want to do with the Instant Pot is we want to find the on-off button. And all you really have to do here is you're going to hit, in this case, you're going to hit saute. That's not what I, here we go. And it will start cooking. It'll turn on, and then when it goes hot, you'll see that it goes on. And then what it will do is it's going to heat up so I can brown the food, in this case the turkey, once it gets to hot. So we just have to wait for it a while, and it'll be about 3-4 minutes. Now that it says hot, what I can do basically is I'm just adding a tablespoon of oil. They talk about canola oil, just to let things, it keeps it from sticking too much. And all I'll be doing now is putting in the ground turkey. And at this point, it's just a matter of breaking up the turkey like you normally would with ground beef. What I like about turkey is that it really is very lean, so you don't have to worry about draining anything out of the pot when you're done, because there's really nothing, there's no grease to worry about. But all we're going to do at this point is break up the turkey, and when it browns up, it's going to turn into a great crumble, just like you would find with ground beef. Let that sit for a while. I'm sorry, we got a 6-quart Instant Pot here. They'll come in 4, 6, and 8 quarts. Depending on the size of the family, you might want to decide which one you want to use. For my wife and I, we find the 6-quart works well. It's large enough that we can make a lot of different things in, but it's not too large that we feel that we've got too much food to keep and reuse. So for the two of us, the 6-quart works out great. We can put a 7-inch pan in there if we need to use a pan. It works out. It works out well for us. What we'll do in this instance is this will give us 4 good hearty meals. We'll take out half of it. We'll eat it. We'll save the rest for another meal. There's no waste at all when it comes to this. Okay, now what we've done is we've finished browning the turkey, and all we've got to do is now start to add the rest of the food. So what we'll be doing is we'll be putting in some peppers. And some onions. A little bit of jalapeno, garlic, some oregano, some cumin, and a little bit of chili powder. We're going to stir that up a little bit just to get everything wet. And get a little bit of the vegetables sweating a little bit. Now, one thing you got to remember is with an Instant Pot, you can't adjust. Once you start pressure cooking, there's no adjusting to the food. You just don't taste it. So you've really got to trust your recipes. If you don't like them, make notes, and then make the adjustments on the next recipe if that's the one that you want to keep. So they talk about adding a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, And we're going to basically add in some tomatoes. with the sauce. And the last thing I'm going to add is broth. And there's all my cornstarch.
Chicken broth?
It's chicken broth. Now, always talk about using the, if you looked at it as a little strange, I actually added just a little bit of cornstarch in there for thickening. So, but we just use chicken broth. It'd be great to make your own for those that are adventurous and want to do that. But the store-bought works great, well for this. It just adds a little more flavor. Now, we buy the big, the larger packages of chicken broth, and we use that chicken broth instead of water for rice or noodles, and it adds a little more flavor to those, to that food instead of just using water. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to turn this thing off, cancel, and then we're going to go back in and we're going to secure the lid. There's a couple things to remember about the Instant Pot lid. Make sure there's a seal in the lid because it won't work. Make sure the seal's in place because it won't pressure cook otherwise. These things, surprisingly, you can put in the dishwasher if you want. So you don't have to, though it looks complex, they're very easy to wash and very easy to clean. A couple other things to make sure of is you want to make sure this is what you're going to use for sealing and releasing the pressure. If or when you need to release the pressure, you need to make sure that it's in the sealing mode. So all you've got to do at this point, that's it. I've got it on seal, and now I'm going to turn it on to pressure cook. Oops, pressure cook. I'm going to knock the time down to 10 minutes. I can set pressure levels, but this is how I'm basically going to set it. And once it's set, in a minute, it will just start turning on. And at this point, it's cooking, and it's going to start creating pressure on the inside. You'll know when there is because there's a little indicator in the back, which will pop up, and that'll prevent you from opening up the lid. And this is all you've got to do here. It's going to wait a couple minutes, and once it gets to pressure, it'll start counting down from 10 minutes down to 0. Why it stays that way is there's actually a little magnet in there that it creates an interlock on the top of the Instant Pot. So once that little button goes up, I can't turn this lid and take this off because that would be dangerous. Now what you found is that once the pressure cooker's gone to pressure and it's gotten to the proper pressure, you've started the countdown timer. So right now I'm set at 10 minutes. It will count down to 0. And when it counts down to 0, what you'll hear is a beep, and it'll do stay warm. And then what we're going to do is we'll call a natural release. And then you'll actually start seeing this count up. And that'll give you a chance to let it release naturally for 10 minutes. Typically, I'll leave it for 10 minutes, and then I will release it after that. But you don't want to do a quick release typically because you want the additional pressure to cook the food while it is slowly depressurizing. And it's not as exciting when you do an instant release, but it does work a lot better for the food. And most are naturally released in 10 to 15 minutes. Now here's one of the nice things about the Instant Pot. It's busy cooking, but I don't have to worry about this at all. I don't have to tend to it. I don't have to see if it's going to boil over. I don't have to adjust the temperatures in and out. If I want to cook something else, for example, a side dish, I can put all my attention on the side dish and not worry about what's happening here, because that's when you miss ingredients, you mismeasure ingredients, and things turn out bad. So what you want to do at this point is I can divert my attention from here, let this do its magic, and then I can go over and I can cook the side dish. As a side dish, we're going to make some cornbread to go with our stew. So in this case, all I've done here is I'm just mixing some flour and some baking powder in there, just with the dry ingredients to make sure it's evenly incorporated in. And I'm going to add a little bit of cornmeal. Pick out the cornmeal of your choice. We've got our favorites, but you'll have your own depending on the technology that you have and or the type of corn, the type of grit you want. But any of them will work out great. And as you see, I don't have to worry about what's going on with the Instant Pot because it's doing its own thing, and I don't have to watch it. So I can do make all my efforts here, and have all my attention here at the meal at the side dish. Now, what you found is that this is now counted down to 0. I heard a beep, so I said, okay, I've set down. It's in a keep warm, and it's starting to actually decrease the pressure inside the pressure cooker. But this is now, instead of counting down, it's going to count up. So when it gets to 10 minutes on this, then I can release the rest of the pressure and then finally add the beans and the corn, and then it'll be about ready to cook. Ready to cook for about 5 more minutes just to get the corn and the beans all done, and then we'll be ready to serve. Okay, now you'll see that it counted up to 10 minutes. Am I worried about it if it goes over 10 minutes? Not really, because it's still releasing the pressure. It's not critical, but it gives me a good point of reference to determine when it's pretty safe to open this up without too many things going on. So I'm just going to turn it off for the time being, and that's just going to hit cancel. And I'm going to release the pressure because the button is still high up on here, so there's no way I can open this up because it's pressurized. Now there's a couple things you can do. You're going to have to move the button, and remember there's going to be steam coming out of there, so you got to either protect it by putting something over it to protect your hands, because you don't want steam to hit your hands. It hurts. But on these paddles, they've got a little hook here, and I'm just going to let the rest of it release. And my hand didn't get close to it, and it's just slowly releasing the pressure. And you'll know that you can open it up when the button drops down. So we're almost there. All right, so what we had is the button went down, which means that what I can do now is I can release the Instant Pot. Now, this has got a really nice little place to put the lid. You don't have to worry about setting the lid down. If anything drips, there's actually a little drip cup in the back, so you don't have to worry about the mess. So, and you can do it on either side. I've done it there, basically, but since I've got some other things to go on, I'm just going to move it over here. I have to add my beans, add my corn, give it a good stir, and now I'm going to turn it on saute again, so I can just kind of get some of the liquid reduced. Again, it's just it'll tell you when it's hot. And what will happen is it won't do anything until you stop pushing buttons. Once you stop pushing buttons, you got about 10 seconds and then it will turn on. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this down to a saute, and think of it as just a really nice controlled little simmer that you would normally do on your stovetop, but because you're only putting in no more than about half the pot's full, there's no way, it's really rare that this would boil over. And it won't take as long to come to a simmer because it's already hot to start with. So the 5 minutes or so it took to come up when I first browned the meat, it's not going to take near so long, maybe a minute or two. And you can already, if you look inside, you can already see the bubbles coming up. So it's just starting to saute. Now, if you're wondering about the cost of the food, and one of the nice things about cooking at home is when you're looking at trying to save a little money, this meal probably costs about $10 and will feed 4. So you're looking at a good hearty meal for about $2.50 a person. Real easy to get. You get the fresh ingredients. You don't have to pay for. This was all fresh as far as what we picked up. Sometimes you can get the dried garlic, or you can get other pieces. But all told, you figure it's about a $10 meal for 4 people. And that really, with the time you can spend with your family, instead of going out instances, and the fellowship you can have with your family, you can get with young kids that are old enough, you can let them help you cook. It's real easy to take a container and just pour it in there. There's no measuring involved, you've already done it, and it makes them feel like they're part of the meal too. All right, so now we're ready. Now all the tools that I was using, they come with the Instant Pot. Whether I've got the spatula to help break up the meat and stir, or whether I've got a little spoon on this, they all have the little thing on there to help make it easy to open up the relief valve. Or if you've got a place to hang the spoons, you can go ahead and do that. So we've got a nice hearty meal. What you can do is you can top it with sour cream. Actually, I want to add a little lime to it to brighten it up a little, so missed that for the first batch. Mix that up a little. That was just lime from a fresh lime juice, but you can add some sour cream to it. You can add some shredded cheese. If you need a little extra spices, pick up your spices, and then you can then season that to taste. And now what you've got is you've got a great meal, and it's all ready to go. That's it. That's the way you can cook in an Instant Pot. I've got one pan that I really got to clean, except for the things that I used for prepping, which you have to clean anyway because you want to make sure it's sanitary. The thing to remember on these, last thing, is this piece comes out for easy cleaning. You just have to make sure you put it back in because it won't work otherwise. And I can wash this, just put it in, we wash them typically in the sink. If you want to, you can also put it in the dishwasher, as I mentioned, because it's really simple to clean. I just take the pan, clean it out, and that's all there is with the Instant Pot. So I used it to saute or to brown my meat. I used it to pressure cook, and I used it to actually reduce the cooking when I'm done. And that's what the Instant Pot will do for you.